Welcome to the Life Self-Mastery Podcast, where we bring in entrepreneurs who have created online businesses and improved their lifestyles. Here's your host, Rohit Malhotra.
Hi everyone, I'm Rohit from lifestylemastery.com, and today we have Ridhima Parvathaneni, who is a serial entrepreneur who founded the Seaways Free Trade Zone in India that generated $4 million annual revenue in just 4.5 years, while displacing multinational giant DHL as a market leader. Ridhima has dual degrees in system engineering and system management from the Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania. She is now the founder and CEO of Boon VR, bringing virtual reality training to the medical industry to improve efficiency in training and reduce medical errors. Welcome to the show, Ridhima.
Thank you so much, Rohit. It's a pleasure to be here on Life Self-Mastery.
Awesome. So, please do share your journey on, how did you get into entrepreneurship and why did you want to solve the problem through Boon VR?
Yeah, so the entrepreneurship decision was back in 2013 when I graduated from Wharton. And I think I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur because it's just the urge to do something from nothing. And it's the urge to collect people and to harness human potential to solve a problem. Now, you can do that in the consulting field or in the investment banking field or even as an employee in a great company. But I think for me, I wanted to understand the nuances. And the best way you can really get your hands dirty and understand the basics and nuances of the building blocks of a entity is by being an entrepreneur. And also that gives a lot of freedom for self-analysis, for thinking about how you want to shape the business, where you want to direct it. So I think the freedom that entrepreneurship gives, the creative freedom it gives also, it's something that I really enjoy. So that's why I got into entrepreneurship. And then why Boon? So Boon was my second entrepreneurial venture. With the Free Trade Zone, I really learned a lot about, scaling a business, dealing with competition, displacing like really giant multinational companies and putting ourselves as a market leader position out there. So it was a fast-paced commercial business. But with Boon, I wanted to take a step back and really ask myself, do I want to do a business or do I want to bring about a technological shift? It was a much bigger tidal wave, so to speak. And it required more than just knowing the smarts of doing a business or scaling a commercial business. Bringing about a movement in technology which affects millions of people globally is a completely different chapter altogether. And again, that also fundamentally relates to the urge to do something from nothing. And this was doing something bigger, more challenging, and more impactful for the world. Basically, anything that helps me use my capabilities to do something superior to the world is something that I get attracted to. And that's what really attracted me to Boon, because virtual reality was at that time in 2015, 2016, where it was commercial. The hardware was available, it was affordable, but it was still at a young stage. And so it was ripe for someone like me to get in and to try to take it to greater vistas.
Awesome. So let's talk about Seaways Free Trade Zone. Did you raise funding for this company, or are you still running the company right now?
So I don't run the company right now. There's a very seasoned board that runs the company, and we have a very seasoned chief operating officer that runs the company right now, and they're expanding quite aggressively. Not only have they become the number one in Chennai on the East Coast, but they've also expanded to Bombay, where they're really growing, and now they're going to expand to Gujarat, and they're also thinking of Vietnam and Africa, and of course some more presence in the East Coast, which would be Ennore. port near Chennai. So I'm completely off it because every second of my workday goes into Boon.
Okay, and so let's talk about Boon. For listeners, how does Boon work, and who are you targeting for these virtual reality training?
Yeah. So Boon works by enabling, so our customers or our end users are doctors, right? So healthcare practitioners anywhere across the world, let it be like a Mayo Clinic or a Cleveland Clinic out here in the US, or let it be like an Apollo hospital in India. Any doctor needs to be able to train on new medical devices, right? Medical devices run the show, without which no medical procedure or surgery can be performed. So they're the fundamental blocks of the healthcare industry, really. But the rate at which the medical device industry is growing, it means that if you're a medical device manufacturer, you're likely churning out more medical devices than you used to 15 years ago, because just of the advances in science and research and material design and development. So it happens, it's very interesting because the medical device industry is bringing out more devices into the market. And that's a really good thing, because more patients can be served by different unique devices that are particularly suited to them. Maybe some devices are superior to their older counterparts, and so that helps in better healthcare and better surgical outcomes. So overall, it's a positive thing for the entire world. Great. But the problem is, we have a logistical problem here, is because a doctor only has 24 hours a day. The more medical devices that are coming out, associated with it is more training, right? And in that time that he has, it's impossible for he or she, the doctor, to learn so much, to get trained on so many different kinds of medical devices, though he or she knows that they're really good for the patients, right? So this has been the dilemma of the healthcare industry for the past 10 to 15 years, where with the huge influx of medical devices, how do they cope up with all the training and the traditional methods of training, which is, let's say you're a doctor, we fly you down to, you're in India, so we fly you down from the Apollo Hospital in Delhi to the Apollo Hospital in Chennai to learn about to learn from another seasoned doctor there who's already using the new device, so that you can also go back to Delhi and use the device on your patients, right? But that model of transportation and physical transportation to learn a new device, to learn about a new device from a seasoned doctor is really, really limiting. It's not convenient, it's not possible, it's extremely costly. So that's where virtual reality comes in, because sitting at your desk right now and putting on the virtual reality headset with the Boon software installed, you literally feel that you are indeed transported to Apollo Chennai, and you're watching Dr. X perform this particular surgery with this particular target device. And so it cuts short the training time, the lead time for a doctor to train. And when that's cut short, and not only cut short, but it ensures that the doctor is being properly trained. Because remember that, it's not that some doctors, but sometimes because of the patient requirements, you have to use that device on them, even though you may not have been, fully trained or completely trained on it, which leads to many medical errors. So virtual reality allows doctors not only to ensure that they're getting trained, but they ensure they're getting trained better, faster, and at the end of the day, it's the patient's benefits, because he or she can finally avail the device.
Got it. So from what I understand is you're a software company, but you also use the VR products. So are you responsible for creating those products as well as software? If you can elaborate more on that.
Yeah, so Talal spoke about the purpose that Boon solves. I'll get more into details about what Boon is exactly in terms of the product. So like you said, there's virtual reality hardware, which is a headset. It's like a goggle sort of a thing that you put on your eyes, and that's manufactured by Facebook, Google, HTC, all the big ones, Samsung. But of course, without software, there's no need for hardware. So the software that we are building is a learning management system in virtual reality. So think of it as like, how are you getting all these, medical procedures, real medical procedures in the virtual reality headset? How are they running in the 360 3D dimension? And how are you able to annotate on them? How are you able to make notes while you're watching this virtual reality experience? How is a medical device company able to get analytics on how many doctors are training in virtual reality? Which part of the experience are they watching the most? How many modules have they completed? So it's a complete learning management system. For people not familiar with learning management systems, you must have heard of Coursera, right? It's a popular online learning management system. Or even YouTube is like a content management system, right? So it has a back end and it has a front end. And building this learning management system in virtual reality is much more complex than building an online, two-dimensional or desktop-based, mobile-based learning management system. And that's what Boon specializes in, the ability for the healthcare sector to have a virtual reality learning management system so that the doctors can easily enter other operating rooms like they were physically there, like live, and also talk to the other doctor, and also get analytics, and also be able to annotate and take notes while they're in the VR experience. That is a learning management system that Boon is in.
Interesting. So how do you plan to, get customers, or do you have customers or hospitals who already signed up to BoonVr?
Yes, so we are currently working with big medical device companies. So we've signed contracts with a $4 billion medical device company, a $500 million neurosurgical device company, and also we're in talks with 7 more, Fortune 500 level medical device companies. So we're strategically going after medical device companies right now because, they have the compulsion, or they need to train the doctors before they can sell their products in mass quantities. But of course, we've been getting a lot of interest from hospitals directly also. All the hospitals tend to be slower, but hopefully that stereotype is broken and we sign a new contract with the hospital.
Correct. And how much time does it take for you to close an account and get going with them?
It really depends on the maturity of the company and the product. So when we started in 2016, and we kind of got into discussions with our first customer at the end of 2016 itself. It didn't take us long because we have a really solid group of advisors, and our investor, Dr. Fumi Ikeno, he's a very well-respected Stanford cardiologist, and he has a lot of connections in the medical device space. And he essentially sits on the board of our first customer. So he connected us to our first customer, and they became our customer in a week, so to speak. So getting the foot in the door is not hard for us because we have the connections, or we've made the effort to hire people or have people on our team that have the connections. But of course, working with our first customer to jointly make our beta version of the software and to pilot it in hospitals in Singapore and medical conferences, that of course did take time. And that was a conscious decision because we want to make sure that we have all the details before launching our next version of the product.
Got it. And what's your revenue model? How do you plan to make money?
Yeah, so a revenue model is based on the number of hospitals that the device company would give VR training to. So for example, if you're a device company that's operational in the US, Japan, and Germany, and you want to or you're trying to sell your devices, or you already have your devices functioning in 22 of these hospitals across these 3 countries, and you want to deploy VR training to 22 of these hospitals, then it's $595 a month for each hospital. for one device. So that's how we make the money on them training the doctors with VR. And of course, a lot of device companies also want to use VR for marketing and sales purposes at conferences or when they meet doctors one-to-one to sell the product or to get them try to use it. And that's an annual package of about 58,000.
Oh, okay. You've used Republic, which is a sister concern of Angel List, to raise funds. Why did you use Republic as a platform, and what was the money used for when you raised funding?
Yeah, we use Republic as a platform because of two reasons. One is when we were actively fundraising, which was the late part of last year and the early part of 2018, the venture capital industry was not so keen on VR because they had hurt themselves from a couple of consumer VR investments going sour. And of course, though enterprise VR is different from consumer VR, they were still on the wait and watch mode because essentially the level of maturity that they were seeking for VR now was higher, right? So think of it this way. So if it's a Bitcoin company, it's a big fad right now. So a lot of investors would invest even without the company having had product market fit, right? Forget revenue model or actual revenue generation or traction, right? But for VR, because the technology has been there for a while, now they're looking, now the fad phase has gone. Now they're looking for real results. And so now their expectation is not only to have product market fit, but to also demonstrate a working business model and to demonstrate actual sales. And even the sales with a certain amount of MRR and ARR, right? So that was their mood, which wasn't congruent with our company maturity. So we had to look for alternative sources of funding. But of course, all these VCs that we spoke to were very excited to invest in us later. But that doesn't work for us because we need the funds at that time. And so Republic was just the right thing that we needed because not only did we get the funds that we wanted now, but we got it in a very grand way, if you know what I mean. Like we got so much attention from people who otherwise would not have known us if we were just doing a straight VC deal behind closed doors. I think the strength of Republic, apart from the money, is marketing. It's really marketing. We've had doctors invest in us through Republic, which is great for us because they're potential customers. We have medical device reps invest in us and executives invest in us, which is great because they're direct customers. And we've had so many medical professionals, whether they're nurses or across the healthcare board, invest in us. And we've had so many people who invested in us in Republic that want to help us in different ways, whether they themselves want to be sales reps in the future or they want to be some kind of strategic business development folks. So I think the Republic network or the Republic fundraise has given us a lot of marketing arsenal, more than we had imagined. It has connected us with customers, and more importantly, it has connected us to the world and made Boon a known brand. I mean, you would have seen a lot of Boon's ads on Facebook or Instagram, and we were extremely taken aback by how, even though this is an enterprise B2B company, so many people were able to relate to this technology.
Very interesting. My next question is about AI, VR. Do you think it's going to displace jobs for people? Because there's a lot of hot topic in Silicon Valley about how AI is going to in future leave a lot of people with no jobs. So what is your take on that?
I think definitely it will have an effect on jobs. There's no denying that. I mean, if you look at the Amazon store in Seattle, which is completely manless, everything is machine-based and camera-based. Of course, there would have been at least like maybe 120 people in that store normally, but now those 120 people are not there. So it definitely will have an impact on jobs. But there was something that I was reading about, yes, it will remove or it will reduce the extent of the jobs, but it will also encourage people to take up more senior roles or jobs that cannot be done by robots. But I'm not fully convinced by that because we have to see how it pans out. You know, I think the morality of the companies really come into play here, especially for AI companies, because, you know, how many jobs are you able to generate to compensate the number of jobs that are lost, right? And the people who are losing the jobs, who are being employed in grocery stores, a lot of skill development needs to go towards them to be able to prepare them for the stated higher capability jobs, right? So you can't make a software engineer out of a person who works at a grocery store in a month. Right. So I think care needs to be taken there, where if the companies in AI are really thinking about the bigger picture that way. But definitely it is a problem. Like every technology has both pros and cons. Though it increases the convenience for consumers, it does reduce employment for the middle class.
Got it. And what is the way forward for BoonVr? Are you looking at expanding your team and raising more funds?
Yes. So the way forward, and you also asked the usage of these funds. It's all about their twin usage of these funds. One is more sophisticated R&D. So to add more sophisticated features in our learning management system, where we'll have a lot more live VR capabilities. So and also much more powerful interactive capabilities in our learning management system. I unfortunately can't specify them, but I can just say that it'll make VR very interactive. And the purpose is to, like, if you visit a doctor personally, right, like physically, you would move your hands, you would talk to him, you would make eye contact, maybe you would write things down on a notepad and show it to him, and both of you would discuss that over a whiteboard. The ability to do all those things that are natural and intuitive and interactive when you meet someone in person, we want that capability to also come in the virtual reality world. So making it interactive and intuitive is very important for the immersion. And so these are the sophisticated features that we're working on. And the second use of funds is really sales and marketing. We're bringing on a very enthusiastic director of sales with experience in healthcare and mHealth before. And I think he would really help us scale to a lot more medical device companies globally.
Got it. So, Ridhima, the thing is, your first company, you're trying to solve, a very different industry, and your second company is into medical industry. So, do you think an entrepreneur needs to do a lot of research when he goes to work on a second? Or on a business which is entirely different from what he or she has done before? Or did you have some sort of an advantage? Maybe you came from a family background, or you had that knowledge, or people around you who could help you solve this problem.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's helpful to know people in the industry that you're trying to get into. I think that's a very important thing. If you're in the situation where you're asking yourself, okay, I really want to get into the robotics industry because I really have a liking for robots for some reason. It's coming from the inside. But you should ask yourself, do I know people in robotics, or at least can I make those connections? So I think investing that time to gather a group of people who have a lot of knowledge in the industry that you're trying to disrupt. In my case, it was medical, and I had that circle of people because a lot of my family members are doctors. And using, even if it's like 6 people or 7 people, it doesn't matter. You need to take that time to network, and that's what I did in 2016 when I started Boon, and when I decided to, when I identified that medical was a big opportunity for the next 2-3 months, I only did networking and research and putting the pieces of data together. And research is great if you do online, but it's limited, right? Yes, news articles are great because the news reporters do a good job of aggregating information from good sources. But you should also have that physical meetings with the associated relevant people. Like I had a lot of meetings with doctors. I went to so many doctors with our prototypes, and they connected me to more doctors. Those doctors connected me to medical device professionals and healthcare consultants. So that way you start with, say 6 people, you start with them and they will connect you to more relevant people in the industry. And that way you can go across the supply chain of all the people involved in the industry. Consultants in the industry are very knowledgeable. Other entrepreneurs in the industry are very knowledgeable. Organizations in that particular industry, in our case, it was an organization called QB3, which is in California, which is very important for us. So start with at least a critical mass of people who are really steeped in the industry. I think if that is done, I think an entrepreneur can enter any industry without I'm not a doctor. I don't have a medical background, but still we're able to make this a win.
Correct. Yeah, that seems like a great advice. How long you been working on BoonVr?
2016 Feb is when I started Boon, and when we officially incorporated it in April of 2016. So yeah, but the idea of virtual reality came was in the later part of 2015 when I made a trip to the US when I wanted to do my next venture in technology, but I didn't know which technology. So I made my trip to the US and met a bunch of my professors and friends. And I went to a couple of trade shows, actually just one trade show, which was really good, called SIGGRAPH, which showed all the new technology that was coming up. And that was when I tried virtual reality, a lot of it, and then I felt convinced that this is the way to go.
Interesting. And now, are you based out of US, or you looking at both US and India as a market to capture?
So we are incorporated, and our headquarters is in the US, and our areas of operations so far with 2 of our customers have been Singapore, have been Indonesia, have been UK, Germany, and the US. So far, India has not been in the list of countries that we've conducted pilots in, but hopefully it should be.
Awesome. Right, so let's quickly do the top 3. What's your favorite business book?
I would say my favorite business book is Autobiography of a Yogi. It's not a obvious business book, but I think the book, when read, will really give you an edge in business also.
Okay, and if you could go back in time when you started BoonVr, is there one thing you would have focused on?
Yeah, so when I first started BoonVr, like I told you in 2016, the first application that came into my mind was college tours because I was an international student in India, and I had the chance to go to both Stanford and Wharton, the schools that I was accepted in, but I know a lot of people who didn't have the chance to go and visit the campuses, and then they had to make a choice that maybe they didn't like. So that was my first application that I thought of, and I spent like a month or 2 on it. Maybe if there's one thing I would have changed, I would have skipped that and directly gone to medical.
Okay. And what's your favorite online tool, for example, Gmail or Slack?
I really like Gmail because it's, I try to incorporate everything in it, and I try to keep it clean, and I try to keep it positive, and so it gives me positive vibes when I open Gmail. And I've really created it, organized it, so I don't get much of spam email, or it's very filtered, created a bunch of filters, so I smile when I see my Gmail.
Correct. And what's the best way people can reach out to you?
Well, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. And you can send me an invite, and you can put a reason why nowadays when you send an invite, you can write a little bit about the connection you have before sending the invite. Otherwise, like a lot of random invites are pretty notorious. So, But LinkedIn is a great way to connect with all of us.
Awesome. So thanks, Ridhima, for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You made me take a trip down memory lane with the FTZ and my Stanford and Wharton visits. So thank you so much. I think this has been a great start to my day.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Life Self-Mastery podcast, where we teach you how to start and grow your online business. For more information, visit Rohit's blog at www.lifeselfmastery.com.